Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for watching. Today we are going to show and we're going to be talking about OSPF. Okay, so OSPF it's an interior gateway protocol that is being used by Cisco, and most of the Cisco environment uh, use OSPF as interior gateway protocol. Also uh, different devices and different routers have OSPF as the primary protocol to be used in their environment. So we're going to show a little demo about OSPF and how it works. And basically, when you activate OSPF in your environment, what happens is that the router is going to learn the routes and is going to learn um, the subnets dynamically instead of um, setting up for a static route. And what it happens is that when you use a static route, it will consume more CPU on the routers, and when you activate OSPF, it will consume less. Basically, most of the time you are going to use some type of hybrid environment when we talk about protocols and routes. And yes, most of the time you will use dynamically learn, and you also are going to use a static route. So let's start. So we have this little environment here. Okay, and we have two core switches, we have two access switches, and we have two routers in here. And this type of design, they are interconnected between each other to provide some type of redundancy in case one of the link fail. Basically, you're gonna have a secondary link that is gonna be used as a backup, and it will automatically um, route basically the packets, and it will route the traffic between the core switches and the access switches. So basically, just uh, your network is not gonna go down. Uh, Most likely, that's what is gonna happen when you have this type of design and layout. All right, but we're gonna be talking about more about this later. Today we're gonna be demonstrating OSPF. All right, so we are going to start basically configuring our interfaces. Okay, and the first interface we're gonna configure is gonna be interface gig 000. Okay. Um, we apply a notch down here so we can bring the interface up, and we start assigning an IP address to it. All right. And the subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. So the IP address for that interface is going to be 10.1.1.1, and the subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. IP DSCP pool, we're going to give it a name or number is going to be 1, and the network is going to be 10.1.1.0. And the subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. Okay, so that interface is already being configured, and those have an IP address assigned to it. We are going to configure interface number 2. All right, and we are going to assign an IP address. as well. Okay. And yeah, the DHCP it's having a conflict here. We're gonna fix that later, so we can basically show a demo of OSPF. And our IP address is gonna be IP address is gonna be 10.2.2.1, and the sound and mask is gonna be 255.255.255.0. We are gonna give a name to that pool as well. IP DHCP pool is gonna be 2, and the network is gonna be 10.2.2.0.255.255.255.0. All right. So, oh, I'm sorry. I just forgot to bring that interface up in. And all right. And the interface, basically, it's app. All right. So our interface, it's app, and it does have an IP address. So we're going to configure now the other side, which is the second router. Okay. And we're going to start the first interface. We enter into global configuration mode and interface gig 0.0.0. We bring the interface up. Okay. I'm going to take the opportunity to bring the interface 1 up as well. And we don't have to worry about that interface to be down later on. All right. So, and the IP address for interface .0.0.0/000 is going to be 10.3.3.1, 255.255.255.0. And IP DHCP pool is going to be 3, and the network is going to be 10.3.3.0.255.255.255.0. All right. And that interface is being configured, and it does have an IP address to communicate within the network. All right. So we're going to configure interface 0/1, and we are going to assign an IP address. It's going to be 10.4.4.1. Yeah, it's going to give me an error because I was typing the wrong command. So it's going to be 10.4.4.1.255.255.255.0. Okay, IPDHCP pool is going to be number 4, and the network is going to be 10.4.4.0. 255.255.255.0. Okay, that will be the IP address for that interface. So we already have these two links in the first router, configure each link with an IP address. And then we have the secondary router configured with an IP address each interface. We're going to jump into the core switches. And as you know, layer 3 switches provide routing capabilities because it does have what is called SVI, which is a switch virtual interface. It's a feature that the core switches and layer 3 switches have. And yes, you can basically turn on the switch into a router, and it will perform, routes just as any other router from Cisco. Um, so what we're gonna do here, we are going to configure the first interface, which is gonna be interface geek.1.0.1. No, en config t. We're gonna jump into global configuration mode interface geek 1.0.1/1. And since that interface is gonna have an IP address, it's gonna be configured to be no switch 4, and that interface is not gonna be considered as a switch 4. All right, so now we can assign an IP address, and the IP address is going to be 10.1.1.2, and the sum and mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. Okay, and yes, I misspelled address here, and that interface already have an IP address. I'm gonna take the opportunity to configure IP default gateway. It's gonna be 10.1.1.1. Okay, and I'm going to configure that in the switch. So we're gonna jump into the second interface, and we're going to configure that interface, which is gonna be 10.3. And it's going to be no switch port for that interface as well. So the interface will be turned into a router port, and the IP address is going to be 10.4.4.2, and it's going to be 255.255.255.0. And then the default gateway for that interface is gonna be 10.4.4.1. All right, so that core switch already have the two interfaces configured with an IP address also. We're going to jump into core switch number 2 over here. All right, and we're going to configure the interface, and then we're going to assign an IP address to that interface as well. All right, so we enter into global configuration mode, and interface gig that 1/0.1 is gonna be a no switch port. We are going to turn that port into a router port so we can assign an IP address, and the IP address is going to be 10.3.3.2, and the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Okay, IP default. The IP default gateway is going to be is going to be 10.3.3.1. All right, so that interface, it's already configured, and we are gonna configure the last interface on this switch. All right, and the interface is gonna be number 3, no switch 4. All right, IP address is gonna be 10.2.2.2, and subnet mask 255.255.255.0. 255. Oh, okay. So I just have one number more in the subnet mask, which is supposed to be 255, 255, 255. No, 255, 25, 55. And the IP default, gateway is gonna be 10.2.2.1. And the good part about the Cisco devices is that if you configure something improperly, the switch over the router is going to return an error. So you're gonna have basically see that something is wrong. It's pretty straightforward. Um, Cisco router and switches. All right, so we have the two switches already configured with an IP address each, and we have the routers that the interfaces already have an IP address each as well. We are going to start the process of configuring OSPF. All right, so we're going to start on router number one. Okay, and it's gonna be router OSPF one, and the network is gonna be 10. We're gonna start with network 10 dot 2.2.0 255 dot 0. And the area is gonna be area 0 in that network. Because what happened is that these devices here, the two routers and the two switches, is gonna be part of area 0. So area 0, you can have up to 50, 55 router or switches. After that, you basically can start configuring. If basically the enterprise is bigger than that, you can start configuring area 1, 2, and so on. Okay, and we are going to um, uh, configure network 3, and that is going to be 0. And network number 4 is going to be on area 0 as well. All right, so we jump into router number 2, and it's going to be router OSPF 1. It's going to be network 10.2.2.0 area 0. Okay, network number 3 is going to be on area 0 as well. And network number 4 is going to be on area 0 as well. All right, so we got that configured in the two routers. We have the network that is going to be part of that area. So we're going to jump into switch number 1, and for this it's going to be IP routing. Okay, router OSPF 1, and the network is going to be 10.2.2.0 255.255.255.0 area 0. Okay, network number 3 is going to be on that area as well, and also network number 4 is going to be on that area as well. All right, so we got that, and we jump into switch number 2, router OSPF 1, and network is going to be 10.2.2.0 255.255.255.0. and it's gonna be area. It's gonna be area 0. We got network number 3, and we got, and as you see, the switch is already starting to form the adjacency between the router and the first core switch. Okay, and we are going to number 4. When you start configuring OSPF, it will take a little bit of time to form the adjacency. Okay, so we got network number 4. Let's check it out over here. As you see, the process already start kicking up to form the adjacency between the routers and the switches, and it's happening. Okay, you already see it on router number 2, and then you are going to see it on router number 1 that is forming the adjacency on that area 0. Uh, all right, so OSPF, it's being configured already. You see here that uh, already formed the adjacency between the routers and the switches. Um, so OSPF is gonna be um, so basically you can verify the adjacency between the router and the switch. And for that to be verified, it's gonna be the following command. I'm pretty sure it's show IP. Yeah, show IP OSPF, and within the OSPF, you're gonna choose neighbors. Okay, and then you see that uh, how the router is telling you which neighbor it's connected, and basically how the route was learned and which one is the router or the switch that is the neighbor. That we have 10.3.3.2, and it's the primary, and then we have that router or switch that is being set up as full backup designated router. Okay, and then we have the IP address, and we do have the interface that the route was learned through OSPF. Um, we are gonna go ahead and verify the second router as well, and it's gonna be show IP OSPF neighbor, and you have in this router that network number 3 and 4 is being set up as the full backup designated router, and the address that was basically dynamically learned, which is through the interface 0 and 1. We are going to jump into the core switches and verify that as well. Okay, show IP OSPF network, and you see that number 4 is the full designated router, and the address is 4.1. So basically, for that, from here to here, this router is gonna be the designated router, and then the IP address is gonna be the 10.4.4.1, which is the IP address that the interface um, have, which is through gigabit 1.0.3. We are going to verify the secondary switch into IP OSPF neighbor. Okay, and you see that we have neighbor ID 10.2.2.1 and 4.4.1, and so we have router 10.4.4.1 that is being set up as the full designated router, and we also have router 10.2.2.1 that is also set up as the full designated router, and the IP address is the 10.2.2.1 through interface 1/03 and 10.3.3.1 to gigabit internet 1/0 that one. You can also verify show IP OSPF interface, and it's gonna show you the entire process of the interface. Basically, we have internet address 10.2.2, which is part of area 0. Router ID is going to be 10.3.3.2. And the network type is a broadcast. The cost is 1. Priority is 1. State is backup designated router. And here you can see the ID and the interfaces of the designated router. You can also see the ID and the interfaces of the backup designated router. Okay, and you're going to see the transmission and all these details. All right, so that was setup configuration and verification of OSPF. Thank you very much for watching, and we are gonna talk in the next episode. Thank you. See you soon.